Two inmates with a violent criminal past are on the run from a Muskoka region prison tonight. We're going to have more on this coming up.
Taking on Toronto traffic, the Toronto Region Board of Trade has released its congestion action plan to help get Toronto moving again.
And Sunwing cancels several more flights out of Pearson today. We'll tell you what the airline is saying about this. We'll also hear from frustrated passengers.
And Canada takes on the U.S. at the Four Nations Face-Off Final in Boston, and things are getting political. More on Donald Trump's comments straight ahead.
You're watching Live at 5.
Hello, I'm Arda Zakarian.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us here on Live at 5. The Toronto Region Board of Trade wants the city to make fighting congestion its #1 priority, and it is now out with a long-awaited report outlining potential solutions to Toronto's traffic crisis.
CP24's Beatrice Baseman joins us now with more. Beatrice, what can you tell us about this?
Arda, Lena, I know both of you commute to work every day and you're familiar with this view, these traffic barrels scattered all across the city, indicating it's going to take longer to get to where you need to go. Here at Bathurst and Lakeshore, this is what it's going to look like for the foreseeable future as the city changes an old water main here. But today, the Toronto Region Board of Trade saying simply congestion is at a crisis level and it's all due to poor planning. Here's what we heard from the head of the Toronto Region Board of Trade about this plan that they're proposing.
What we're trying to emphasize from the task force is we think this should be a dominant priority. We think it will have an impact on housing accessibility. We think it'll have an impact on ability for employers to have their employees return to the workplace downtown, which is a huge issue still here, and also businesses, entertainment venues, restaurants, shops enable customers to arrive to travel to those places.
The Toronto Region Board of Trade today saying the cost of congestion pegged at approximately $45 billion with a B dollars a year across the GTHA. And that's why they put together this 5-point plan to address congestion. It targets travel times, pinch points, hotspots. The Region Board of Trade calling on the city to reduce lane closures by using pricing to incentivize faster construction, to restrict closures on major arterial roads during peak traffic times. They want the city to crack down on those drivers who block the box and impede the flow of traffic. They want to move bike lanes off of main roads and Cafe TO patios as well, saying they disrupt traffic on these major arteries. They want to clear bottlenecks around the Gardiner by restricting turns, adding more traffic signals. And they also want a traffic czar to be appointed by the city to go through it all. And so here's what we heard from Mayor Olivia Chow in response to this report.
We welcome the Toronto Board of Trade in joining us to say to the province of Ontario, please give us the power to issue fines for those that are disobeying the law. Let us use traffic cameras, and we welcome the Board of Trade in joining to ask the province to do so. We've hired a traffic agent. We have invested in public transit with a 6% increase of ridership. All of that helps ease congestion. Lots more we can do, but let's do it together.
So you heard the mayor there talking about the fact that the city has already started to implement some of the components that the Board of Trade talked about today. The mayor saying the city is going to be unveiling its latest congestion plan, though, coming up in April. As for commuters around the city, yeah, that plan cannot come soon enough. I think a lot of people are tired of sitting behind the wheel in traffic, gritting their teeth, white-knuckling, struggling to get around the city. Back to you guys.
Yeah, you've said that so well. And what a shot that is behind you, Beatrice. Really
I've been there. Yeah.
Really tells the story, doesn't it? Yeah, I can tell this is personal for you. It sure is for so many people. Thanks, Beatrice. And speaking of that drive that Beatrice was describing so well, let's get a check on that with Adjua and Siayabwa. I couldn't have said it better myself.
No, me neither. You're white-knuckling it if you're making around the Toronto Valley lanes of the QEW. I thought I was going to give some good news. Can't do that because problems which were happening just east on the QEW, just east of this situation. It was on the approach to the 427. Multi-vehicle collision was blocking the 3 left lanes. That problem cleared. Is that one cleared? Another one popped up. So this is the eastbound lanes of the QEW right at the West Mall. So center lane blocked with this two-vehicle crash. Then up on the 401, it's been a painfully slow drive, and MTO's moved their cameras, but it is jammed in the collectors because there is that ongoing snow removal that continues between Yonge and Bayview. So definitely creating quite the delay. And then further west on the 401, no rear relief in the Express. That's where you're running into a collision just past Keele. It is in the left lane. More issues on the westbound 401. It's the ramp that takes you to the southbound 427. Long-standing collision cleanup. Two right lanes remain occupied, and it looks like we still are dealing with issues that are happening on the Allen northbound on-ramp to the eastbound 401 Express. They've had to shut down that ramp. That was all the result of an ongoing stalled transport truck. We are dealing with issues on the 410 northbound at Courtney Park. A heads up through there. It's a stalled vehicle. It's in the right lane. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Thanks, Adwa. We are getting reaction today from both sides of the labor dispute between the city and inside workers. We now have a date for a potential strike or lockout involving inside city workers.
The 27,000 members of CUPE Local 79 could be off the job as of March 8th. It follows the Ministry of Labor issuing a no-board report as part of the collective bargaining process. The city says it's tabled its latest offer to the union on Monday and is awaiting a response now.
This isn't just our fight. These are your workers. These are your public services. And this is our collective right. The Ontario Labour Relations Board has issued a no-board report for CUPE Local 79. That means that if the City of Toronto continues to refuse to negotiate a fair deal, March 8th will be the first possible day of a strike or a lockout.
Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow was asked about the potential labor disruption today.
The negotiation continues, and the best deal, of course, is through negotiation. I really appreciate all those workers, tens of thousands. They take care of our seniors, our kids. They are childcare workers, long-term care workers. They are recreation workers. They are nurses, planners, paramedics, dispatcher. We appreciate you. We respect your work. We will do what we can. Let us continue to negotiate.
And CUPE, which represents workers in a number of areas, including childcare and long-term care, has said wages are the biggest sticking point.
Stellantis says that it's temporarily pausing work on the next generation of the Jeep Compass, which is supposed to be produced at the Brampton assembly plant.
The new electric SUV was scheduled to go into production later this year. Stellantis says it's pausing work on the vehicle as it releases its product strategy in North America. The company adds this does not change its previously announced investment plans for Brampton. According to Unifor, Stellantis has reassured its members that production plans are still in place for Brampton. The union also notes, though, that announcement raises serious concerns given that it comes against the backdrop of continued tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump.
Sunwing Airlines has canceled several southbound flights from Pearson Airport as it works to bring home stranded customers, preventing vacationers from getting to their destinations.
CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live with the very latest, and you're hearing from a number of frustrated passengers, Lindsay.
Yeah, frustrated passengers who are either stuck here hoping to go down south on their vacation, maybe having already missed 1 or 2 days of their trip, or frustrated passengers who are stuck down south who have been trying to come home. So we're hearing a lot of stories from people who are incredibly frustrated. Passengers saying they're seeing what they call a lack of customer service at the airport, too. This comes after Sunwing canceling flights heading south for the second day in a row. 27 flights were supposed to head out of Pearson today, heading down south to various destinations, including Costa Rica, Cuba, for example. All 27 of those have been canceled. Same with flights, actually, Sunwing flights coming out of Montreal's Pierre Elliott Trudeau International Airport as well. The reason for this is because obviously we've been seeing a backlog ever since those winter storms we saw last week that were kind of back to back, and also that crash at Pearson Airport, which closed a lot of the runways and delayed a lot of things for a couple of days. And now Sunwing is saying it really needs to redirect all its resources toward getting people home, because there have been people stranded down south for days now, and Sunwing says it's also ran out of hotel space as well. So a lot of people frustrated about this, and we heard from people today. Take a listen.
it really feels like we're moving into that zone of incompetency with communication, with supporting their passengers. Their email handle is Sunwing Cares. That's what pops up on our email inbox when they reply to anything, but it really doesn't feel like Sunwing Cares.
So important to note as well, this is an airline issue at this point, not an airport issue. However, members from the GTAA at Pearson Airport have been speaking about how they're trying to help out in this situation. Have a listen.
This is really a Sunwing issue to get those bags to them. What I can say is that it will take some time. The baggage volume was pretty massive coming in, and those need to be rectified with the passengers appropriately. So it will take some time to get that sorted out.
So a lot of frustration. Sunwing says it is going to be offering full refunds to every passenger affected within 21 business days. Arda and Lena, we are going to be speaking with a passenger next half hour at 5:30 who is also incredibly frustrated. At this point, passengers are being told to just check, maybe come back tomorrow and see if their flight is departing, but there's no word at this point whether there's going to be any flights heading out tomorrow either.
Here's hoping. Thank you so much for that, Lindsay. It's 5:11-8. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, the latest on 2 inmates who escaped from a Gravenhurst prison. Stay with us.
The search is on for 2 inmates who escaped from prison in Gravenhurst.
Staff at Beaver Creek Institution discovered 70-year-old Jay Sedore and 68-year-old Michael Karas were missing during a head count at dinner yesterday. Sedore is serving an indeterminate sentence for first-degree murder, while Karas was sentenced to 15 years for robbery, forcible confinement, and using an imitation firearm. Police believe they were picked up in a gray sedan at around 1 p.m. yesterday. Corrections Canada says it's investigating how this escape happened. Let's bring in CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan for his thoughts on this. Steve, this sounds wild. First question is, how could something like this happen?
Well, I think, my opinion, this is the result of that the lollipop and unicorn approach to violent criminals. Sometimes it backfires. So we've got 2 violent criminals who are now being housed in a minimum security institution, which means there's no fencing, less supervision, no jails, they sleep in dorms, and there's a focus on rehabilitation. So these 2 just disappeared, and then it wasn't realized until there was the head count done Wednesday afternoon when they realized, hey, these 2 violent criminals are now amongst the public.
So what does this mean now? So as you said, they're amongst the public. So what happens to the community? Do they get warnings? And also the police?
Well, it's a safety concern. So the community up in Gravenhurst, of course, will be notified. The borders will be put on alert. Their pictures will go out throughout the province and the other country, and perhaps even down to the States. I doubt they'll get that far. But imagine the uniform officers that get called saying, we think one of these 2 guys might be over there in the corner store. They've got to approach these 2 criminals now. Desperate criminal is the most dangerous criminal. And if these guys think that they're going back into custody, maybe they're not going to go back without a fight. So it certainly does increase the danger for not only the police, but for the public as well, and it is unnecessary.
I think what a lot of people might be wondering is, on one hand, we're hearing police describe these 2 criminals as violent offenders, and then on the other hand, we're hearing that they were able to leave the prison. What does that say about our justice system, and your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, it's a mess. It's a mess. And when we have violent criminals, sometimes treated, again, with that attitude of unicorns and lollipops, and we're all going to just survive together, it doesn't always work. And this is what we're seeing in this situation. The guy that's serving the life sentence for murder, he's been in custody for 37 years. So remember, after 25 years, he was eligible for parole.
Okay.
He clearly didn't get it.
Right.
He's 37 years in custody. I'm not being given parole. Maybe I'll just leave. That's what he did.
It's quite incredible. Thank you so much for this, Steve. Appreciate your insight on all of it. It's now 5:16-8. This is Live at 5.
The provincial election is 1 week from today, and advance polls, they're now open. We're going to have the latest from the campaign trail coming up next. Welcome back. Advance polls are now open in the provincial election, which is 1 week away.
Advance voting continues through Saturday, with polling stations open from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. Elections Ontario says those who haven't received their voter cards in the mail yet can still cast a ballot if they bring a piece of ID that shows their name and home address.
Doug Ford likes to talk about protecting Ontario. But he has been neglecting Ontario. Under his watch, Ontario is falling further and further behind every other major province. BC, Alberta, Quebec, they're all doing a better job of helping businesses succeed. That is Doug Ford's Ontario.
Ontario PC leader Doug Ford visited plants in Burlington and Milton today, making his pitch to voters that he is the best leader to deal with the ongoing threat of tariffs from U.S. President Donald Trump. Ford also responded to a reporter's question about the Ontario government ads running on U.S. networks and the province sponsoring a Fox News interview with Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
The taxpayers have the right to know everything, and it's always transparent, and it can always be FOI'd. I can't give you an exact figure, but I've never had a bigger bang for our buck when we're on fight for our lives, when we're on fight for the people's jobs behind me, to get the message out that we're close allies. And by the way, that ad is probably the best one I've ever seen in my life.
And Ontario Green leader Mike Schreiner, he was in Kitchener this morning. That is where he unveiled his plan to protect renters.
We would strengthen the rules around rent evictions and bad faith evictions. I can't tell you how many people have been rent evicted and have no place to go. Fourth, we would reinstate vacancy control so that when units are between tenants, you don't see a dramatic increase in the rent. So we can stabilize rents in the province.
NDP leader Marit Stiles cast her ballot in an advanced polling station in Mary McCormick Recreation Centre near Dundas and Dufferin this morning. After voting, she encouraged others to get out and vote.
It's tough for a lot of people to get out in weather like this, and I know Doug Ford is counting on that. I think his whole plan all along was to hold this election in the winter, a snap election, hope nobody would show up, and I think he's wrong. I think people are going to show up. I think they're going to turn out because this is an important election, and people know that their vote has the power to change things.
Meanwhile, the Daily Nanos research poll for CTV News shows Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives dipping slightly in support, while the Liberals and NDP tick upward. The PCs are down by 1.7% to just over 44% support. The Liberals are up by 1% to 30.7%. The New Democrats are up 0.7% to 16.6% support. And you can see the Greens, they're sitting at 6.6%. That's a slight slip for Mike Schreiner's party.
And when it comes to who voters prefer as Premier, 41.3% of those polled chose Doug Ford, 25.4% picked Bonnie Crombie, 14.2% said Marit Stiles, and just under 7% chose Mike Schreiner. Nearly 4% of those surveyed chose none of them, and 7.3% said that they were unsure.
Now, Nick Nanos spoke to CP24 about the strategy for the main political parties heading into this last week of the campaign.
I expect Ford to Lowbridge, kind of like maybe to slow down the campaign a little, not put himself at risk. And I think if you're in the Liberal campaign, or if you're in the New Democrat campaign or the Green Party campaign, you've got to be thinking of what can you throw at Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservatives to try to throw them off kilter. Because right now, if the trend line doesn't change going into the weekend, that's probably, we're probably looking at a Ford win. Anything can happen, but, it's just going to be hard to stop this particular trend line.
For everything you need to know about the provincial election, you can always visit our website, cp24.com.
Well, from provincial politics to federal, another high-profile Liberal cabinet minister is putting his support behind Mark Carney.
Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc tweeted, "Time and time again, Mark Carney has demonstrated he has what it takes to steer a G7 economy through choppy waters. He is the leader of our party and our country needs. That's why I'm supporting Mark Carney to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada."
And federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre joined CP24 this afternoon. He actually joined ARDA to talk about a number of topics, including the ongoing tension between Canada and the U.S.
Let's talk about President Donald Trump. How would you handle him if, hypothetically speaking, you had a phone call with him today? What would that conversation be like? What would you say to him?
Back off. The one will never be the 51st state. We will bear any burden and pay any price to protect our sovereignty. Two, we will respond to tariffs with retaliation, and I will use the dollars raised for those tariffs to save jobs in companies that are directly affected by a trade war, but also cut taxes for workers and businesses so that we can bring home the investment Liberals have driven south of the border.
524 -8. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Canada and the U.S. will meet tonight in the final of the Four Nations face-off. We're going to hear from some fans next.
Welcome back. It's a big night for hockey fans as Canada takes on the U.S. in the final of the Four Nations face-off. CP24's CJ Liu joins us live now with a preview, an exciting game tonight.
Stand together with these guys.
That's right. It is rivalry renewed, a huge matchup tonight, must-watch hockey. And the Four Nations face-off, some people are calling it the biggest game since the 2010 Olympic gold medal final. But here to get more reaction on how fans are feeling, I'm joined by three young fans, the next generation guys. How are you feeling going into the game tonight?
Good.
Good. Tell me, what jersey are you wearing and who are you cheering for?
I'm cheering for Mitch Marner.
Yeah, what about you?
I'm wearing no one's jersey. I would say Austin Matthews.
Yeah, and what about you?
Mitch Marner.
Mitch Marner. So you guys watched the first game, I'm guessing, where there was a lot of fighting.
Yep.
It was close. How do you feel about that game and how excited are you for tonight?
It was funny.
Yeah, why's that?
Because there was 3 fights going on in 9 seconds.
Yeah, a lot of tension. So what is your...
Kachucks were fighting.
What is your prediction for tonight?
I hope Canada wins.
And that is the same message a lot of people have, hoping Canada wins tonight. And there's already been a lot of trolling, trash talking before the game. We heard from President Donald Trump earlier, who continued to call Canada the 51st state, saying he's looking forward to, quote, Governor Trudeau watching the game with him. But there is a lot on the line. Like the boys mentioned, during the first game, there was 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. America went to take on that that game 3-1, but tonight they will have some redemption tonight. It's not going to be in Montreal. It is in Boston tonight. Puck drop is at 8 p.m. So there is a lot on the line here. Pride for the whole country, a championship, and bragging rights up until the Olympic Games next year.
Oh, CJ, that was so great. And those boys you were chatting with, they're so good. They should be TSN analysts or something. CJ Liu reporting live tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the preview. 529 -8. You're watching Live at 5.
And the latest on Sunwing, the airline has canceled several flights out of Pearson as it works to bring home passengers from sun destinations. Two inmates with a violent criminal past are on the run from a Muskoka region prison. We'll tell you more.
And taking on Toronto traffic, the Toronto Region Board of Trade has released its congestion action plan to help get Toronto moving again. We're live with more.
Sunwing cancels several more flights out of Pearson today. We'll tell you what the airline is saying, and we'll hear from frustrated passengers.
And Canada takes on the U.S. at the Four Nations face-off final in Boston, and things are getting political. More on how Donald Trump is trolling fans in this country. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
And I'm Arda Zakarian. Welcome to Live at 5. Delta Airlines says all 21 passengers injured in the crash of a plane at Pearson Airport on Monday are now out of hospital.
A total of 80 people were on the flight from Minneapolis. The wreckage of the regional jet was removed from the runway yesterday. It was moved to a hangar for further examination by investigators with the Transportation Safety Board. Pearson, meantime, says the runway is being inspected for damage with the goal of reopening as soon as possible.
Sunwing Airlines has canceled several southbound flights from Pearson Airport as it works to bring home stranded customers, preventing vacationers from getting to their destinations.
CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live with the latest. Lindsay.
Yeah, and this is the second day that all southbound flights from Pearson have been canceled. 27 flights were expected to head out today. All of those have been canceled. No word yet on whether they will resume tomorrow. So we've been hearing from a lot of frustrated passengers who are either stranded here looking to go down south, Lena and Arda, or who are down south and have been trying to get home. And so for more on that, I want to bring in two of those frustrated passengers right now. Rajan and her daughter Vera, who are, I believe, stuck in Costa Rica and have been trying to get home. Hi, you two. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You're stuck in Costa Rica right now. Your flight was supposed to leave yesterday to come back to Toronto, and it's been pushed back. Can you tell me what you've been going through?
Yeah, so we were supposed to fly out yesterday late afternoon, and we've been getting told every morning and afternoon to come back and check in with the Sunwing representative on either coming at 9 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock to get more information. And we've now been given 4 different flight times and pushed out again at 3. And when we went, the gentleman said, like, still come back and check tomorrow because it could change. They have no idea.
So by come back, they actually mean like come to the airport and check to see if your flight is going to head out tomorrow?
Not the airport, just the representative in the hotel. We've been lucky enough. We haven't had to change rooms or anything. They've done well with that. But it's just there's been lack of communications. Other passengers from our flight aren't receiving any emails or getting different ones. There's people here from our flight who have babies and are running out of supply, have no supplies left, and still have no idea if we are actually going to get out on a 5 o'clock flight tomorrow, as it was supposed to be. Today it's changed like 3 or 4 times, actually.
Yeah, I've seen your flight has changed a number of times. You've been told different times, and it looks like it keeps getting pushed back. But I think that's a good point you mentioned, that some people are running out of supplies, because I think some people here listening might be like, wow, I'd love to be stuck in Costa Rica right now. But it's not as simple and as wonderful as it sounds when you've been looking to come home and we're not expecting to be there for so long, right? Can you talk about that?
Oh, exactly. Like, other passengers on our flight have babies and young ones. If you have medications, you only brought so much, contacts or anything that way. And we're at a resort that isn't near a town. You have to take a half-hour to 40-minute bus ride into town and might not even be able to get the supplies.
What else have you heard from Sunwing at this point? And are you optimistic? I know you've been told to check in again tomorrow. Are you optimistic that your flight might actually leave tomorrow?
There were people who were here on Sunday and left 3 days, so we're 50-50, honestly, if we'll get to leave or not. And it's just been, honestly, the lack of communication has really been, the resort's been great, and honestly cannot complain about the weather compared to what you guys are dealing with at home. But it's been a lot of inconsistency and upheaval and not knowing what we're doing. And, you know, if you had, like, we have a dog who's being looked after. I have a business that I run, and thank God for my team, because honestly, I wouldn't know what to do without them, because we're kind of stranded without any knowledge of when we're actually going to get back to Canada.
Yeah, so many things to consider as well. Okay, Rajan and Vera, really appreciate you taking the time. I hope you get home safe soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
So there you go, Lena and Arda, really just a taste of what a lot of people are going through. There's so many things to consider when you're stuck either away from home or are stuck in Toronto trying to leave on vacation. Of course, Sunwing has said it will be refunding all of its passengers within 21 business days, a full refund, but a lot of people still incredibly upset.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Lindsay. And thank you to the two of them as well for making the time for us. Let's check in now to see how the commute is going with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa. It's now the thick of it. I know we said it's always rush hour, but I feel like now is the crunch time.
It is crunch time. It's rush hour to the max. That's what I'm going to call it. So if you're making your way out, you have to deal with the slow drive, snow removal, and on top of that, you have to deal with a lot of problems. So we'll start with the snow removal. It's been with us since the morning. So this is on the 401 traveling west on the approach to Yonge. You will find only the one lane getting behind the collectors as MTO crews continue to clean up all of that snow. And then west of this point, westbound 401 in the express this time, just past Kiel. Crews dealing with a collision that does have the left lane occupied. Long-standing problems, and they're still happening. This is the southbound 427 ramp from the westbound 401. Find the right lane blocked. At one point, it was the two right lanes. It looks like they managed to reopen a lane, so a little bit of good news and some significant issues that are taking place further west on the 401 in the collectors approaching Dixie. It looks like it's the two center lanes blocked with a collision and debris, and a piece of the right lane also blocked with the collision involving a tanker and another vehicle, and a couple of other vehicles, actually. And your other issue, this is the westbound 401 on-ramp from the Allen North to the Express, eastbound 401 Express. They've had to block that ramp. It's for a stalled truck, which is at the bottom of the ramp, and it's creating all sorts of delays. I'll send it back to you both.
Adjoa, thank you. Well, the Toronto Region Board of Trade wants the city to make fighting congestion its #1 priority and is now out with a long-awaited report outlining potential solutions to our city's traffic crisis.
CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us now with more. For anyone that's stuck in traffic day after day, crisis seems like an understatement.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. I mean, we talked about it being personal, not just for me, but for every single person who's trying to navigate the city. A guy just walked by and said it's a nightmare. Why? Because you see signs like this all over the city. No left turn, road closed, yield. And then you get these construction barrels here that are essentially, it's a graveyard here at Bathurst and Lakeshore because the city is undergoing maintenance here for water main repairs. The intersection is greatly reduced for the foreseeable future. Today, the Toronto Region Board of Trade is saying this is not only a crisis, but it's costing the economy big time. Here's a bit of what we heard.
I think the city is, has certainly taken notice of the work we've done. I mean, the city is not oblivious at all to the congestion crisis. But I think what we're trying to do is push harder, faster. I mean, I think that's what we're really trying to do. Acknowledging all the other priorities of the city, we think this ought to be #1 and treated as #1, which means other things are going to have to be maybe put aside a little bit or toned down a little bit in order to get this done, because it'll have a huge impact on everything else.
And the Toronto Region Board boss there essentially saying the cost of congestion is costing the economy about $45 billion a year across the GTHA. They're saying City Hall simply cannot wait that this has reached this crisis level. And he's saying it's essentially because of mismanagement. So he's put together this 5-point plan targeting travel times, pinch points, hotspots. They're calling on the city to reduce lane closures by using pricing to incentivize faster construction. They want restrictions on closures on major arterial roads during peak travel times. They want to crack down on drivers that are blocking the box. That's something that Mayor Olivia Chow says is already happening with traffic agents across the city. They want to move bike lanes off of the main roads onto the side streets. They want Cafe TO curbside patios to be moved off of main roads as well. The city manager says this is all things that the city is looking at doing. Listen.
The business community to come out, first of all, to be in such alignment is good news. And then secondly, to give us some specific things to think about as we develop our plans, that's also going to be very helpful. This is a business issue as much as it is a community issue, as much as it is a visitor issue. We need to take that into account.
And so until then, you're going to see a lot more of these all across the city. Hopefully they're actually vertical and there's work happening to make sure that congestion can start easing across the city and that drivers and commuters can get from point A to point B a whole heck of a lot quicker, guys. Back to you.
What a sight that is. Beatrice Vaisman with the latest on Toronto's traffic woes. Thanks, Beatrice. Well, city crews have spent the day clearing snow from streets and sidewalks.
More than 50 centimeters of snow fell in 2 separate storms last week, leaving massive snowbanks and burying vehicles and driveways. Several areas are now considered no parking zones as workers move to remove the mountains of snow. Mayor Olivia Chow got a first-hand look at the operation today.
I'm here to look at the operation of snow removal. It's a tough job. And I'm also here to thank our city staff that have been working 24/7 to clear the snow. And it's not easy.
450 dump trucks are being deployed to collect snow and transport it to 5 designated sites.
It's 5:42 minus 8. This is Live at 5.
Coming up after the break, the latest on 2 inmates who escaped from a Gravenhurst prison. We're going to sit down with our Steve Ryan right after this. The search is on for 2 inmates who escaped from prison in Gravenhurst tonight.
Staff at Beaver Creek Institution discovered 70-year-old Jay Sedore and 68-year-old Michael Karas were missing during a head count at dinner yesterday. Sedore is serving an intermediate sentence for first-degree murder, while Karas was sentenced to 15 years for robbery, forcible confinement, and using an imitation firearm. Police believe that they were picked up in a gray sedan at around 1 p.m. yesterday. Corrections Canada says it's investigating how the escape happened. Let's bring in CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. So exactly that. Yeah. How did this escape happen, especially for the person that committed first-degree murder?
So they're in a minimum security institution, which means that there are no fences confining all of those inmates in that institution. So as part of the investigation, that will be what Corrections Canada will try to determine. But clearly, they're trusted enough to be in minimum security. That's the idea of being there. And that's how it backfires, because they could have just walked off. And obviously those in the institution didn't know that they'd left until they did a head count. So that tells you that they were out of sight for some time on their own before they would notice that they, in fact, weren't where they were supposed to be.
So the community, I'm sure, is on edge after something like this. Well, you've got 2 violent offenders on the loose, Steve. How would police try to find them?
So first off, the community certainly is concerned, and the police are as well. So the police would send out a bolo, be on the lookout. Their pictures would be blasted all across the country. The borders would be notified as well. And then the police would try to find who has any connections to these 2 bozos. And at that point in time, they'll try to track them down. But right now, the entire country is their oyster, if you will. So they could be absolutely anywhere. This is why it's so concerning, because they're both serving long sentences. The one guy has served 37 years for first-degree murder. He's 7 years old. Do you think he wants to go back into custody, perhaps not without a fight? So that puts the police in that much more jeopardy and danger, and the community as well, if in fact this guy is located. And the police can't get a precision team, a tactical team, there to extract them, and they've got to do it one-on-one because you're it. You're the person that gets the call. You see them, you go get them. That could be very dangerous.
How does something like this happen? What is wrong with the justice system, if anything?
You know, my line, unicorns and lollipops. So that's the ideology that we have right now in this country, which is that everybody deserves a second chance and a third chance, despite the fact that people were convicted of very serious criminal offenses. And what happens sometimes is it winds up biting you in the backside. And I think this is what happened in this case.
Okay, Steve Ryan live in studio tonight with the latest insights on this disturbing case. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate this.
You got it.
You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
The provincial election is 1 week from today, and advance polls are now open. We'll have the latest from the campaign trail next.
Advance polls are now open in the provincial election, which is a week away now.
Advance voting continues through Saturday with polling stations open from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. Elections Ontario says those who haven't received their voter cards in the mail yet can still cast a ballot if they bring a piece of ID that shows their name and home address.
And NDP leader Marit Stiles cast her ballot at an advance polling station in Mary McCormick Recreation Centre. That's near Dundas and Dufferin this morning. And after voting, she encouraged others to do the same.
I wanted to vote early because, I expect that on election day, I'll be busy getting out there and helping other campaigns. So it's one of the things I can do to make life easier for my campaign as well. And to show people that you can get out, you can vote anytime now, pretty much. It's easy. It's fun. I get to come here, and you saw I meet my neighbors when I went to vote today, and it's very easy to do. So I always am a big fan of advance voting. I think it get it out of the way. You don't have to worry about it on election day, and you don't have to worry about lineups or anything.
Ontario PC leader Doug Ford visited plants in Burlington and Milton today, making his pitch to voters that he is the best leader to deal with the ongoing threat of tariffs from U.S. President Donald Trump. Ford also responded to a reporter's question about the Ontario government's ads running on U.S. networks and the province sponsoring a Fox News interview with Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Those ads are extremely effective. You know, they've hit over 500 million people. But what you did leave out were advertising on CNN. I'm on CNN, CNBC, I'm on Fox News. Because you know what we have to do? We have to tell the Canadian story. We have to tell the American friends, and they are our friends and they are our allies, that without Canada, there's going to be inflation. A Trump tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans.
And Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie spoke to the Canadian Club at the Royal York Hotel, where she criticized Doug Ford's track record on business and the economy.
Since Doug Ford took office 7 years ago, every single metric of economic success has gotten worse in Ontario. Business confidence is at the lowest it's been in a generation. It's hard to attract investment to a province where workers are worried about gridlock, they can't afford to buy a home, and they can't find a family doctor.
5:53 and -8. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Canada and the U.S. will meet tonight in the final of the Four Nations face-off. We're going to hear from some fans coming up next.
Welcome back. It's a big night for hockey fans as Canada takes on the U.S. in the final of the Four Nations face-off.
CP24's Sija Liu joins us live now with a preview. You've been talking to fans here in Toronto. How do they feel about Donald Trump's trolling, Sija?
Well, they feel very proud to be Canadian. Fans that I've been speaking with say, hey, bring it on. And it's all a part of the game. But fans are nervous. Some have said this is the most nervous, the most excited they have felt since the 2010 Olympic gold medal game. And for more fan reaction to tonight's game, I'm joined by three boys here. Guys, how are you feeling going into tonight's game?
We're pretty excited. I guess we're just hoping for the win after what happened in our first game against the U.S. But yeah, it's a nerve-wracking because, it's a big deal.
First game against the U.S. on Saturday, there was 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. Do you think it's going to be a round 2 of a fight tonight?
It could be. I hope so.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch.
It will. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. When it comes to Donald Trump, trolling Canada, saying, Canada, you should come be the 51st state. Yeah. Do you feel like that adds to the tension tonight?
I do. I think it's just going to fuel the boys more, to be honest. I would be so hype in the dressing room, I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, so if Team Canada is watching this right now, give them a pep talk. What would you say to hype them up?
I think definitely just, think of the tariffs and the government and just get that through your mind, get on the ice and just lock in, maybe square up and bring home the win.
All right, bring home the win. We want to see the gloves off, and tonight it's not about the name that is on the back of the jersey. It is the name on the front, Team Canada. Puck drop, 8 p.m. tonight. It's going to be in Boston, TD Garden, but fans here in Toronto are ready for this game. Back to you guys.
That was priceless. 10 out of 10. No notes from us. Sija Liu reporting live. I want to play that over and over again.
Yes, I was just going to say that Team Canada should do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Sija. Well, the Toronto Tempo marking another milestone. Canada's first WNBA team announced Monica Wright-Rogers as its first general manager. Here's more on that.
In the coming months, we're going to build this team from the ground up, hiring not only a head coach, but an entire roster of talent that will shape our first season. We'll do that, of course, through the expansion draft, but also through what I believe will be the most dynamic free agency period that the league has ever seen.
The Toronto Tempo will begin playing at the Coca-Cola Coliseum in 2026.
It's 5:59 -8. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.